So thank you all for being here. When my wife and I, we've had our practice together now for 21 years, and there's probably a variety of things that we've done, good decisions that we've made, or bad decisions that we've avoided that have resulted in some level of professional success. But probably one of the greatest source of it over those 21 years is that we've devoted a lot of our free time, I guess you know, uh, time while we're driving to work or the time right before bed, spending time reading nonfiction books. And the nonfiction books that you see in front of you, they allowed us to just make certain decisions to become better business leaders, maybe more fit people, better parents, better at handling stress. For me, it's taught me to be a better speaker. It's taught us to run our practice better and just create better relationships. And I know some of you who are on this call are like, dude, I just don't really like to read. Um, I just don't enjoy it that much, which is totally fine. One thing I would recommend is audiobooks because I'm not a very good reader myself, but a lot of these I absorbed through audio. But I want to talk about one particular book that I can say with a very high level of sincerity completely changed my life, and it's this one. It was written by Dan Martell. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And uh, there's what, 78 of you on this call. And if you think of all of the ways in which you devote your time, I would say the majority of us on this call, there's a high potential of being overwhelmed because a lot of us are dentists, we're practice owners, we are practice administrators to some extent. We are parents, we are spouses. We have, if you're my age, you have aging parents who are, who have health concerns and new demands. You have just a variety of issues and problems, and then all of a sudden your roof starts leaking or your autoclave breaks or something like that. And there's like a particular point where you're like, wow, this I already have a lot on my shoulders, and if I have a little bit more, I'm going to potentially break. This is the whole point of today's lecture is what we can do to make it so that we can reclaim some of our peace. And as a result of reclaiming that peace, actually become much more professionally successful. Um, from that list that you saw earlier, there's another book that was on that slide that you saw earlier. It's called Atomic Habits. This is just a book that I think every single adult human in the world should read. It's probably had the most dramatic and lasting positive effect on my life. And so I just wanted to throw that one up there just because I thought it was so good. Okay, so now let's take us to our professional lives. We're dentists, we are potentially practice owners, and as dentists and practice owners, we want to have an extraordinary new patient experience, extraordinary philanthropy, extraordinary web presence. We want to have a bunch of extraordinary things, but I want to talk about these three things in particular. There are two people that work at my front desk, and those two people are required. Now, so this is part of their job description. Two people. That's Christy, that's Alyssa. Two people. When a new patient walks in, the new patient must be wowed. Okay, so that means when a new patient walks in, Alyssa or Christy has to stand up, make eye contact, shake their hand, call them by name, and compliment them. Like I overhear them sometimes, and it's like they always seem to like people's glasses or like their earrings or something like that. But anyway, they have to compliment them somehow. Some dudes are like really hard to compliment because, they're so grungy looking, but they have to. It's part of their job description. And then Alyssa or Chrissy has to get up. So they have to stand up, go around their little domain, and then sit next to the patient, side to side, go offer water and coffee, introduce them to team members who might be nearby, and then, whether you have a digital practice or a paper practice, go over the paperwork, sitting side by side, and then learn something about them. Now, think about the time. Let's say you don't already do that. And you go and you tell your front desk team tomorrow, you say, yo, front desk team, listen, I listened to this webinar. It was pretty good. I want you to start wowing new patients when they come in. You got to get up, you got to sit next to them. Your team is going to be like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, we don't have time. We barely have time to do what we normally do. We're not going to get up and sit next to the patient and do all this crap. Like, good try, but it's not going to happen because they're already burdened. They already have too many responsibilities on their shoulders. Okay, then there's this second thing. And once a year, I try to do our office. This has been going on for 10 years. Once a year, we do a major in-office philanthropic event. Okay, so basically in our office, we close the office for a day. Usually it's around Veterans Day. And we just do free dental work on veterans. Like, so any veteran who wants to come in, they can come in and we just do free extractions or fillings or cleanings, x-rays, whatever. And we've been doing that since 2016. And we actually skipped 2020, but been doing it every year. And this has been an incredibly beneficial thing that we've done in our office. It's our reputation in the community is like so nice because of this. Um we have like real recognizability. It's awesome. And the fact is we like it. I mean, it's a really we feel nice that day. And it's something that I kind of feel like a lot of dentists should do. But let's take that example. So you let's say you're inspired by this and you're like, oh dude, I want to start doing this. I want to start giving free work to veterans or maybe to underserved children or something like that. You go back to your office tomorrow and you're like, yo, listen, I listened to this webinar. I want to do this big philanthropic event. Your team is going to kind of stare at you and be like, okay, how are we going to plan this? How is this going to happen? And the problem is that if you just are inspired, but you don't carve out the time to actually plan this out, it's just not going to happen, or it's not going to happen well, because this takes a lot of time and effort and marketing and volunteers and donations and all that kind of stuff. It takes time. And if the time isn't there, it's not going to happen. The Veterans Day event is so nice. It's such a whoops, I skipped past that. Sorry about that. And I've had a lot of, because this is my job, I counsel a lot of dentists and I tell them about the Veterans Day event and they're like, oh, dude, I want to do that. They do it and only like six people show up. And they're always like, what did I do wrong? And the answer always is you didn't carve out enough time in the preparation and the planning for it. And where does the time come from? Well, in a regular dental office, the time doesn't come from, I mean, you're already busy. Your team is already busy. And then this last thing I want to talk about is web presence. It's 2025. Uh, People stalk everybody online. I mean, I would say probably 90% of your new patients, before they come in as new patients, they're going to stalk you online. And my team made me aware of that. They were like, Gupta, we have a weak, lame web presence. We got to do something cool. So I said, okay, what should we do? And they said, let's do opening credits with our office. This is cool. It's nice. It's a cool idea, but again, how did we do it? We couldn't just come up with this like at a morning huddle or at lunch or something like that. This is a required time. Like, we had to like figure out how we could all drag our photos from our different phones into one Google album. And then we had to figure out how to download the font for friends and all that kind of stuff. All of this stuff takes time. And what I realize is if you want to have an extraordinary professional life, extraordinary new patient, extraordinary first phone call, case presentation, team wellness, if you want to take care of yourself well, if you want to have a great social media presence, if you want to delegate responsibilities well, if you want to have a lot of fun and enjoyment in your office, great clinical experience, excellent patient follow-up, um, implementation of new ideas, utilization of new CE, all of that stuff just takes time. It all requires time. And when your office is already super busy and everybody in your office is just busy, that ability to have extraordinary all of these things is impossible. I want to give you an example. So so a couple of years ago, I got asked to give a lecture in Montego Bay, Jamaica. It was awesome. It was the first time I got to go anywhere overseas. And I live in Cleveland, so I live up here. And if there was a direct flight, so here I'm going to quiz you. So I'll tell you right now, a direct flight from Cleveland to Montego Bay, if it existed, takes 3 hours. It's 3 hours to get from Cleveland to Montego Bay, Jamaica. But there is no direct flight. So we had to fly to Charlotte. And then from Charlotte, we flew to Montego Bay. Our stop in Charlotte was 1 hour. Okay, so now I want you to do the math. For those of you who are actually paying attention, there's 93 of you, so I'm hoping like five of you are actually paying attention. Of the, there was a 1 hour layover and a nonstop would take 3 hours. How long did it take for us to travel from Cleveland to Montego Bay? What was the total amount of time it took to fly from Cleveland, then to Charlotte, then to Montego Bay, knowing that we stopped for an hour? Okay, so for those of you who are paying attention, what was our total travel time from the moment we left Cleveland to the moment we landed in Montego Bay? I'm really hoping somebody's paying attention. Please. Okay, Basim, you did your math. Yes. 3 hours plus the 1 hour layover should be four, but you're wrong. And actually, I think you know you're wrong. Leanne, you're wrong. Now we got some good ones. Okay, unknown said seven. Robert said six. Nusrat Noor, you said nine. Nusrat, you were a little overdid it. It was seven. It was 7 freaking hours. It was actually like 6:45. And I was thinking, how? Like, how did we lose that much freaking time? We only stayed laid over in Charlotte for an hour. What happened? And I asked a friend of mine who's an air traffic controller, and he said, dude, it's momentum. Everything is about momentum. If you go in one direction, you're going to go the fastest possible. But if you have to stop, you lose so much momentum, and it takes so much time to regain that momentum that there's a lot of lost time. So I think a lot about dentistry and our team, and think about this now. Okay, so there's my wife, Nisha. She says, "Hey, I just attended the CE event. Let's start doing this new thing for our patients." And Ari's like, "Okay, but my air water syringe is leaking." And then Jazz says, "Hey, can you make us a cheat sheet on how to send perioprotect cases to the lab?" And then Hillary's like, hey, everyone, Chrissy's coming back from maternity leave next week. Shouldn't we like, decorate the office or get her a cake or something like that?" And then somebody else is like, "Oh, well, Veterans Day is coming up. We need to start planning that." And then somebody else is like, "Well, the section in my op is really crappy. Can you guys call the guy to come look at it?" These are all momentum killers. They're all layovers. Instead of going from my nonstop flight of doing dentistry, I now have layover, and it's a momentum killer. And there's just not enough time to do the stuff that we want to do. So here I am doing dentistry nonstop, and Carly's like, Mr. Jones wants to know if you'll sponsor his kid's soccer team. Now here I am doing dentistry, and in my head I'm like, oh man, I kind of need to think about that. I need to know how much it's going to cost. But because that news was delivered to me at a time when my brain couldn't properly handle it, I may answer in a way that I'm not sure, or maybe I will just forget about it. And then Ari comes in, she's like, "Hey, the computer in Op 6 is glitching." And again, I'm like, "Oh, okay, wait, should I handle that? Maybe I should ask somebody to call somebody to handle that, but I can't because I'm in the middle of my nonstop flight." Oh, and then Hillary goes, "The lab called about Miss Smith's case. Can you talk to them?" And Kathy's like, "Hey, the state is coming tomorrow to make sure we're compliant with our X-ray stuff." This happens in dentistry. This happens. And the problem is that what we will do, if it is just not, if these are just layovers in our nonstop flight, we'll do a poor job of handling all of these pretty important decisions. Okay? So here's my poll question to you. When do you get that stuff done? All the extra things, all the weird stuff. When do you get that stuff done? Go ahead and just click. When are those things getting done? The weird stuff. Not when do you bond composites or when do you seek crowns? We know when you do that. But when an air water syringe is leaking or when something like that is happening, when does that stuff get done? So half of you are doing it between patients. You're literally getting somebody numb. You're in the zone to do dentistry, and then you have to do some other crap. And that's not okay. That's a career full of being overburdened. Half of you are doing it between patients. That's too much. Half of you are doing it where you can't focus on one thing. You have to make a little parts of your brain do this, and a little part of your brain do that, and a little part of your brain do that. And that's not okay. So what I want to do is I want to help you with this. Okay? I want to help you buy back your time. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to talk about a few specific things, tech, innovation, and outsourcing. Okay? And I want to start off by showing you the Google Suites, okay? Because this might be one of the most important things you can do. Um, the Google Suites, now I have a North Ridgeville Family Dentistry Google Suite account, so I do pay for it, but I don't pay much. But what it does, let's first talk about Google Docs. Every single person in my office has a something at North Ridgeville Family Dentistry. So everybody in the office has access to our Google Suites. And then we also have Google Sheets, and we'll also talk about that in a second, okay? The one thing that's cool about the Google Suites is they can be accessed by any of your devices. They can be edited by anyone on the team at any time, and those edits show up on the doc in real time, okay? That means that any maintenance issues, shout outs, annoyances, administrative tasks, office projects, upgrades, any project, it immediately goes onto the doc rather than filling your brain so that you have to do more stuff in between patient. It goes on the doc. Okay. I'm going to give you an example. I was doing an anterior composite. I like to polish my anterior composites with the shofu discs because it just looks so nice afterwards. And so I asked for the shofu discs, and I was sitting in op six, and my assistant kind of turns and looks at where the discs normally should be, and then my assistant gets up, walks to a different operatory, comes back with the discs. And at that moment, I was pissed. I was like, dude, why don't we have a place for the discs in op six? But instead of getting pissed about it, all I did was when I finished with the patient, I just pulled out my phone, pulled up the Google Doc, and I typed in our Google Doc, shofu discs in every op. Okay. We wanted to do a 5K for the community, and we didn't know who was going to sign up, who was going to do it, how we were going to plan for it. And so it all showed up in the doc. We got a new laser. It's called the Gemini laser by Ultradent. The team needed to understand what all it could do, how it was a bit of an upgrade over our previous laser. So instead of talking about it in between patients or at lunch, it went in the doc. Okay. Real-time coffee stains, projects, maintenance issues, shout-outs, cheat sheets, responsibilities, accountability, they all show up on the doc. Now, we have meetings once a week. Why do I have meetings once a week? Because I have time to have meetings once a week. I want to be extraordinary. Our office has the goal of being extraordinary, so we have meetings once a week from 8:30 to 9:30, okay? The first thing that we do is from the Google Doc, and that's where we shout everybody out from the previous week. So anytime somebody did something nice, it shows up on the Google Doc. It shows somebody did something nice, it shows up on the doc. Now, when somebody does something cool or they stay after, they help out, it just goes on the doc immediately. It's automatic. Somebody just pulls out their phone and types it in. Anybody can contribute to it, okay? The second thing is responsibilities, and those are to-dos that were assigned from the previous week. So it looks like Kathy was responsible for putting oral surgery pictures in the training manual. So during this meeting, when we pull up that Google Doc, we say, hey, Kathy, did you ever put those pictures in? And she says, yeah, I did. And we're like, all right, cool, we can cross it out. And that's a really nice feeling, okay? The next responsibility, the next thing is on the doc. Well, this shows up at the very end of the meeting, and this is everybody's to-do list that was made from the meeting. So it looks like Op 5 air water syringe was leaking, and it was my responsibility to, over the course of that week, to change that, to change the little O-rings and stuff in that. I had to do a Facebook post. It looks like Dr. Arif had to send an endo picture setup in the shared doc. Okay. And then on the same Google Suites, anytime, so if you noticed in the previous slide here, Dr. Arif had to send an endo picture setup in the shared doc. Well, what happens then is the perfect endo setup goes onto our Google Drives. And now we have a bunch of folders, and some folders have cheat sheets for perfect setups, okay? But a person doesn't have to search. they literally can type in onto the Google Drive endo setup, perfect endo setup, or something like that. Endo setup, they press enter, and sure enough, they click on the perfect endo setup. This way, if we hire somebody new and they don't know how to set up for endo, it's easy. They just click on the Google Doc and then it's easy for them to set up. Okay. So those are cheat sheets. Maintenance issues we already talked about. That shows up on the Google Doc. And then real-time coffee stains. These are anything that is annoying or like a little thing that everybody wants to talk about. Maybe it's that Veterans Day is coming up. Maybe it's that a certain weird thing needs to be ordered. Maybe there's something about the computer that's glitching. Maybe it's something about those shofu discs or a upcoming 5K that's in the community. It shows up on the Google Doc. Okay. We do an accountability app called Asana. I actually pay for it. It's probably not worth it. It's just kind of fun to click the check marks whenever I accomplish something that I do. And then projects. Real-time projects are big projects, like the Veterans Day event, like the Friends opening credits. Those become projects because they might take 6 months to totally plan, but they show up on the same Google Doc so we can discuss them on a regular basis. Now, we did add one thing to our Google Doc for our weekly meetings, and that's social media presence. And that's because we wanted to make sure that our TikTok page and our Instagram page are sweet. So at the end of every single one of these meetings on that same Google Doc, we all have fun looking at other people's TikToks and then trying to copy them. And this has been quite a pleasure for me. It's, in my opinion, what makes it extraordinary. It just makes work more fun because on a regular basis, we do these stupid, crazy TikToks that are a lot of fun. And of course, they improve our web presence, but they also make coming to work more enjoyable. Now, let's play this one. This one right here is the stupidest TikTok, yet it's our most popular one. We have like 47,000 views or something like that. And this is so dumb. Okay, ready?
It would be nice to come back to a clean house. So clean it. I didn't do it. So how about you clean it? No. Yeah, because you're dirty.
That dumb, that 11-second stupid thing has like 40,000 views or something like that. Do I understand it? No, because I'm old, but it's fun to participate in. And then the second thing I want to talk to you about is Google Sheets. And Google Sheets are basically it's something called, it allows me to do, me, my wife, our office manager, and our associate to do something called the employee grid. And the employee grid is an opportunity for us to, in real time on a regular basis, record any type of performance, either issue or highlight from each one of our employees. Now, this is real. This is real. That's why I blocked everything out because I didn't want you to see people's names, but I just took a screenshot of a portion of a Google Sheet. And so basically, if people have to leave early, if they if they have to come in late, if they have something happening in their family, if they have a performance issue, we just, it's so easy to just pull out my phone, open up my Google Sheets, and just type it in the Google Doc. My office manager types it in. It's the same Google Doc. It's a real-time living form that everybody who can contribute to it. This is the best way to actually hold people accountable because it's in real time. Then if we have a evaluation meeting or if we have to do any type of disciplinary stuff, the employee grid is there. We have objective data that shows how an employee has performed over time rather than us like trying to think about, okay, when did this person piss me off? Oh, well, she didn't have the room set up and that pissed me off. No, no, no. Now we just have a very, very comprehensive, objective database full of content, and it makes it very easy to hold people accountable. Okay. So that's the Google Suite. Managing the grid, facilitating level 10 meetings, coming up with TikToks, maintaining accountability, contributing to the IDS, planning big events and projects. You can do that if you just do the Google Suites. And that's a very, very low investment. This has really helped catapult our office into something that I would describe as a extraordinary office. Okay, but what about this stuff? This is stuff that your front desk team has to do. Send claims, payroll. This is stuff that you have to do. Return emails, dentistry, social media content, patient check-in, collecting money, paying bills, um, billing people, presenting treatment plans, extraordinary new patient experience, unpaid insurance claims. There was something else, but I don't even know where it is. Making appointments, regulatory stuff, CE, equipment maintenance, office improvements, accounting, bookkeeping. Oh, and then also being sane, being a good parent, being a good spouse, being fit, healthy, planning out good, healthy meals, and sleeping enough. All of this stuff has to be done. Everything here has to be done. It's required. You have to do this. Um, the problem is which of those stuff is enjoyable? What of those things is profitable? What is that stuff that should be delegated? Um, so actually, let me open up my chat here. What here would you say is enjoyable? Just type it in. What here is enjoyable? There is stuff here that's enjoyable. Yeah, I agree, Ben. I would say CE is enjoyable. All right, come on, somebody else. What here is enjoyable? Presenting treatment plans, social media. I agree, Robert. New patient experience, office improvements, super enjoyable. Dentistry, enjoyable. Okay, so here's how I broke it up. Um, I would say that dentistry and CE is both profitable and enjoyable. Okay. Stuff that's enjoyable and profitable for the team. The team loves to do a killer job presenting treatment plans and collecting money. Um, and then stuff that's just enjoyable, it may not be that profitable, but it's definitely enjoyable, is social media content, office projects, extraordinary new patient experience. You see Maddie down there at the front desk. She's got her fingers on a computer, her hands are doing something, and that means she's got to do that stupid, like old school, um, like Mary Tyler Moore type of look, where you have your shoulder up against your ear, and you're gonna end up with neck problems. I don't want anybody on my team doing that. I don't want anybody on the team having to feel like they gotta multitask to that point. What did you say, Erica? I just get so excited when we do office improvements and we're able to offer more. Yeah, I agree. I think office improvements are so enjoyable. Um, Problem is all the stuff at the bottom, it all has to be done. Everything at the bottom has to be done. And sometimes when we put the responsibility on our front desk team, that front desk team can be overburdened, they can be overwhelmed. But I think what's most painful about this is they may not enjoy their job. And then you have a front desk team that doesn't convey the same type of happiness and positivity that you do. And that's the first person that patients see or talk to. And I can understand why they wouldn't like their job. That's a lot of crap that they have to do. So I don't want your front desk to be looking like that with their head against their shoulders, their ear like that. I don't want to see that. That to me looks like unhappiness. Okay. So how can we make this better? First of all, so I actually did this. I'm a Catapult speaker, as you know. I asked a bunch of my Catapult speakers to ask their front desk teams this poll. What do they hate the most? What does your front desk hate the most? Insurance verification, patient check-in, billing, or incoming phone calls? What do they hate the most? Crazy, but the winner of this was pretty consistent. Yeah, dude, everybody, you got it right. Now, I think incoming phone calls are cool when it's like a new patient who's like super eager to get started with like comprehensive treatment. But obviously, incoming phone calls that are like about billing and insurance and that kind of crap, those suck. But yeah, the front desk team hates insurance verification. They find it incredibly time consuming. They find it burdensome. They find that they're on the phone for much too long. That is really consistent. So I didn't want my team to do the things that they hated the most. And so here's something that I want to recommend to all of you. And that is number one, Give your office manager a promotion. Pay them another couple dollars an hour. Okay. And as crazy as it may sound, and I know some of you are too private and you refuse to do this, but this has been very helpful for me. Have your office manager read your emails and delete the stupid ones and organize everything and be able to categorize the things that need immediate attention. Have your office manager do payroll. It's okay. They people, dude, they have the internet. They know how much people get paid. Allow your office manager to do payroll, take it off of your shoulders. Tell your office manager to pay all your bills, everything. Have them open the mail, pay all the bills, figure it out, get you on automatic billing, all that kind of stuff. And then your office manager should do, and most of you probably have an office manager who does the majority of team management. Okay. My office manager does the most with the employee grid, but I contributed. My wife and I contribute to it to an extent. And then the second thing is hire somebody that doesn't work in your office, an offsite administrative assistant, somebody who doesn't work in your office, somebody who you may never meet in person, and give that person the ability to do all unpaid claims, insurance verifications, insurance follow-up, regulatory, bookkeeping, accounts receivable. Let that person do all of those things. Take it completely off of your front desk team's shoulders. Now, the administrative assistant that I had the experience with was out of the Philippines. You'll meet him in a second. And that same administrative assistant can handle a lot of phone calls because that administrative assistant could be available during business hours. And that person might be able to handle a lot of questions about billing, about accounts payable, about other random dumb stuff that people call about. They might be able to give instructions on how to get to your office or what insurances you take, etc. Most new patients, I like it that my team answers new patient questions because we have a protocol for new patients. But I'm okay with somebody outside of my office handling all these other phone calls. Okay. Our guy is named Stephen Tumambing, and as you can see here, he lives in the Philippines. I've never met him in person, and I probably never will. We've had few conversations on the Zoom, but mostly his interactions are with my front desk team and with my office manager. But the thing is about Steven is that he has incredible experience in the dental field. Incredible experience. He's worked for insurance companies. He understands how insurance companies work. He knows what insurance companies are looking for. This dude is doing a lot of the stuff that my team was doing, only better. Because A, he's focused. He doesn't have 5 million other things to do like your front desk team does. That's number one. But number two is he has more experience about some of this stuff than my team does. And so by offloading so many of those responsibilities from my team onto Steven, what happens to the front desk? What do they now get to do? They get to present killer treatment plans. And that part is really fun. All of a sudden now, Alyssa, I go into a room and a patient needs all of their teeth removed, and I recommend that we remove those teeth, do some alveoplasty, bone grafting, place some implants, make them an implant retained overdenture. It's going to take a year for them to heal. Um, it's going to cost them a bundle of money. And those people are like, damn, I'm about to make a big decision in my life. And instead of Alyssa walking into the operatory and being rushed and harried and frazzled, she's completely at peace and she can present the treatment fees, the treatment timeline, the treatment options in a very peaceful way. So, what ends up happening? All of a sudden, Alyssa, who's always been good at presenting treatment plans, all of a sudden our treatment plan acceptance goes way up. Money that we have been owed. Now, Alyssa doesn't have to devote her time and energy to tracking down weird insurance stuff or tracking down patients who owe money because their insurance didn't cover this certain thing that they thought that they would and blah, 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 blah. No, that stuff is offloaded. Okay. What's more is that when a new patient calls, Alyssa and her partner up at the front, they have the peace, the personal sense of peace to be able to handle that new patient phone call in a really good way, knowing that the extra phone calls, the other people who are calling, maybe they have questions about the office or insurance and stuff like that. Those calls are being handled by somebody outside of the office. It's awesome. All of a sudden, dentistry for me becomes more peaceful because Alyssa does more of my work. I get to implement stuff that I learned when I do CE. And then when we come to work, we just do a lot more crap that's fun. We get to do like cool office projects and social media content. We get to focus more on like really, really good patient experiences. And that's because Stephen has now occupied the space below the line. He likes this. It's win, win, win. Patient experience is better, our experience is better, and Stephen is very happy to be working for a dentist in the United States. It's awesome. Win, win, win. What happened? Okay. So he's doing the stuff over here. Alyssa is doing the stuff over here. Okay. If you want to take a really quick screenshot, that way you have a little bit of direction if you do decide to go down this route. Now, our sponsor of today's CE is Reach. Reach is the company that I use Reach is the company that I use to meet Stephen. Okay. The other thing here is we don't work on Friday. We don't have somebody in our office on Friday. And when we have somebody outside of the office answering our phones on Friday, that person can potentially learn that somebody on Monday morning is canceling, and that person can also schedule a potential emergency that is called on that Friday when we would have otherwise not been available on the phone. Okay. All right. So what's left? Oh God, I'm sorry about this. I hate it when people leave these hanging bullets, and I did it. Sorry. So what's left? Just killer case presentation and acceptance, a killer new patient phone call and new patient experience, and killer new social media brainstorm. Okay. This is the company. It's called Reach. I think that the CEO of the company is going to tell you a little bit more details about their virtual assistants after today's lecture. But if you want to learn a little bit more about them, here's the QR code. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in the 10 minutes that I have is the fact that it's 2025 and we live in a digital age. And that means that if a patient is considering us, they want to stalk us on the internet. If they call, they want an answer. Reach helps us a lot with that. Patients never get a voicemail now in our office. If they want to talk and tell their story, they don't want to talk to somebody who clearly is impatient with them talking. If they make an appointment, I want them to automatically get emailed all of their welcome packet with paperwork. When they come in, I don't want insurance to even be part of the conversation. I want that to be digitally and automatically handled before they even come in. That shouldn't even be a part of what we focus on. All of that stuff, paperwork, forms, consent, insurance, it should be automatic, digital, easy, and pre-done where the patient makes an appointment and then a couple hours later they get an email that tells them everything they need to do in order to be fully checked in when they come in. And then if they owe us money, I want them to be able to pull out their phones and then blip, blop, bloop on their phones and just be done paying. I don't want them to have to write a check. And I definitely don't want my team to have to write a stupid billing invoice and put it in an envelope and like lick the envelope and stuff like that. If a procedure is done, they should get a follow-up call. If a difficult procedure is done, their post-op instructions, consent, that should be all sent to them digitally so that we don't mess up. And all of this without having to hire more people. And, there was a time in my life in which I had four people working at the front desk, and me and my wife still at times had to be on the phone. That's a lot of people doing administrative stuff. We don't do that anymore because we've embraced tech. Okay. I want to talk about a couple of these things. I don't have time to talk about all of them, but I want to talk about stalking us on the internet. Now, if you want to shame me, you can take a screenshot of this and read it. But this is a one-star review on my office. This was back when we had 61 reviews. A one-star review among 61, it's pretty noticeable. And basically, this lady had a very legitimate reason for being pissed. And so she aired it all out on Google. I don't blame her for it. We messed up. She was pissed, and we deserved the 1 star review. Problem is that it still makes me feel bad, and I don't want to have a 1 star review that people notice. And so I wanted more people to start giving us 5 star reviews. But I'm like lame. I don't, if a patient's like, "Hey, Dr. Gupta, you did a really good job. Thanks for pulling my tooth. I barely felt it." I feel weird being like, "Well, I'm really happy that you like me. Do you think you could leave me a review?" I just feel weird doing that. So instead, we have we have it's automatic. Instead of, a 1 star review and a little cup of water, that's pretty noticeable. But if you have a 1 star review in a swimming pool, in a pond, it's a lot less notable. So I just wanted to have more 5 star reviews. And the way to do that is have that be automatic, where the moment a person leaves your office, they get a text on their phone, and that text says something like, "Hey, if you had a good experience, go ahead and click here to leave us a review." And since we started doing that and making it automatic, we started getting many, many, many more 5 star reviews. So that was nice. I already talked about some of these other things. I want to talk about one more thing, and that is if a patient calls and it's during regular business hours, sometimes patients, sometimes if we can't get to the phone, yeah, it'll go to Steven, but sometimes we want to be able to interact with people. And so they automatically get a text. And we can actually have a full text conversation with the patient's phone on one hand, our computer on the other hand, and we have a full conversation with the patient without ever actually talking to them. It's a much less stressful, a much less harried, frenzied, burdensome way to have a very high quality experience with the patient, which is pretty nice. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I have a particular software, which is my practice management software. And my practice management software allows us to do a lot of this stuff automatically. Allows us to do a lot of patient communication, a lot of payment, all of that kind of stuff automatically. And what I really like about it is, let's say I do a extraction on a patient. I used to have to call them. Ugh, I hated it. I hated it. I was done with work and I was like, dude, I just want to go home and like eat and be lazy and stuff. And then I was like, oh no, but I pulled number 32 on Frank. I gotta call this dude. And the whole time the phone's ringing, I'm like praying that Frank doesn't answer. But I know it's right to call him. And so the way I would say it, Frank would answer and I'd be like, "Oh, hey, Frank, it's Dr. Gupta. I'm really happy with the way procedure went today. Just wanted to call, see if you had any questions." But really in my head, I was like, dude, I was actually hoping to not talk to you because I want to go home. One thing that's really nice about practice patient communication software is I don't call people anymore. I just text them. That's it. I just text them. At the end of the day, I have it on my phone. I have practice by numbers, the app on my phone. Actually, I did pull number 32 today. So I literally can go on my phone and text the person, "Hey, this is Dr. Gupta. I just want to check on you. Do you have any questions?" And then blip, it's sent. The patient never needs to know my phone number, my cell number. They still feel like I care because I sent the text. And if they do have questions, I can respond to those. Most of the time, though, people are like, "Oh, dude, that was so nice. Thanks for checking in." That's it. That's it. This is all through our patient communication software. Because we use software, I would say my office is relatively busy. There's 3 dentists, 4 hygienists, 8 operatories, and only 2 people that work at the front desk. And I think that in a lot of offices that I visit, offices that are about this busy, 2 people would not be enough because they have too many people, they have too many responsibilities. Here's what I like to ask you all is just buy back your time. Invest in tech, invest in innovation, invest in utilizing your computer in the maximum way. Sometimes this stuff isn't very expensive. It certainly is not the expense of another employee. It's not the expense of having a third person here. Yet it can be so much more effective if you just buy back your time. These two, they're chill on a regular basis. We see a lot of patients in a day, and these two are chill. They're in a good mood. They get to do the kind of the work that they like. Why? Is it because they're special? Yeah, they're pretty special. They're nice people. But I think it also because we've devoted a lot of time to buying back the administrative burden. I'm sorry, to buying back time and alleviating ourselves of that administrative burden that's so natural in most dental offices. Okay. I go to a lot of I counsel a lot of dentists. I've been lecturing now for several years, and I go to a lot of dental offices. They'll call me up and they'll be like, "Hey, Gupta, can you do a little motivational workshop for my team?" And I like it. It's fun. I get to just really, really get to know these dentists and their offices and their teams and stuff like that. And I have gotten to experience really extraordinary offices, really special offices. I would say I don't want to just say that my office is extraordinary. I've gotten to see other people's really extraordinary offices. And what I will tell you is they don't devote their time to just production, profitability, new patient flow. What they devote their time to is a much bigger picture. They have a clear idea of what I call the deathbed stuff. Okay? Those of you who've heard me lecture before, I talk about the deathbed stuff all the time. The deathbed stuff is when you're about to die and you look back at your life and you say, okay, am I proud of that, of these decades? Did I live a life that's meaningful, that was purposeful, something that I'm proud of? The answers, as I think all of you would agree, was that life something in which I was as loving as possible, in which I was generous with my time, generous with my affection, a life in which I didn't fall in love with the culture of being stressed out, of being frenzied, of being um, constantly exhausted. And the problem is that dentistry is a messy profession that requires lots of responsibilities. And I think that the ability to do dentistry and be successful in terms of profitability, in terms of a great new patient flow, in terms of having lots of five-star reviews on Google, that's challenging in itself. But in a bigger picture, a more important, but also a more challenging challenge is to focus on the deathbed stuff. And the only way to do that is to buy back your time in some way or another, is to make it so that the least enjoyable administrative responsibilities are offset to somebody else. I hope I convinced you of some of that. I hope you found this lecture to be somewhat enjoyable. What I want to do right now is actually open up the Q&A. And let's see, it is 8:52. Perfect. I was right on time. Lisa, I think you need to give me a gold star because I was right on time here. Oh, by the way, the sponsor of today was Reach. However, a lot of people always ask me, what's my patient communication software? My patient communication software is Practice by Numbers. They did not sponsor today's lecture. However, I wanted to make sure that you all had the ability to learn more about that software as well. So that's the QR code for them. And I welcome you to ask any questions that you might have. You can ask me questions anonymously if you'd like to. You said, who did you say did all of the insurance verification on top of what they are writing into your software, the insurance breakdown? Okay, so Stephen, he is the individual from the Philippines. He is doing the majority of insurance verification that is not already picked up by our our patient communication software. So Ben, if I can break this down for you a little bit better. Patient calls, they schedule an appointment. They're a new patient. They immediately get a packet of information that they need to fill out, right? Just like your new patient paperwork. In that packet, they also include their insurance information. Now, if Practice by Numbers already has in their software the ability to get an insurance breakdown from the insurance card that that patient provided, digitally, then all of that will get written into our software. Okay. However, there is about, oh, I would say 40% of insurances that patients have that is not that if those insurances don't have a pretty robust online platform, then those insurances before had to be broken down by us in the office when the patient came in, which was time consuming and annoying. So now that particular task is now offset by Steven. Steven, then he gets their insurance verification, their insurance info. He calls the insurance companies, gets a breakdown, writes that into our practice software. Our practice software, by the way, is Open Dental. A lot of people ask, I'm not sure how much it matters, but Ben, could you do me a favor and just let me know if I adequately answered your question? Okay. Okay, next one. I think it was Robert Biscup. You said, what kind of HIPAA privacy considerations are there for outsourcing? I actually, Robert, I would like to defer that question to the sponsor. The CEO of Reach is going to be addressing all of you after I'm done. Corey, would you mind just unmuting yourself really quick and just let us know if you have an adequate answer to Robert's question? Because I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
about.
it's no, it's a great question. HIPAA is obviously a major component of all of our work, and so we sign a business associate, a BAA, with each practice that we work through, so that we are keeping things as HIPAA compliant and secure as possible. So that's one of the reasons we exist as a company, to help with the employment side, but also the, digital security and HIPAA compliance portion.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. And then I'm hoping Robert appreciates that answer. I am definitely not I wouldn't have been able to answer it because I'm just the type of person, my personality is just kind of like I think everything will just work out. You know what I'm saying? And Robert, you seem like somebody who's a little bit more conscientious. And so the nice thing is that Reach is very good at handling those types of things. An anonymous attendee asked, talk about how did you get the Philippine employee? Okay, so basically, um, Reach is the company through which I learned about this employee. So basically, this is how it worked. I said, I am interested in having a virtual employee. And what Reach did is they set us up to interview about 5 candidates. One was from the Philippines, a couple were from South America. Um, let's see. Yeah, there was one from Argentina, one from Brazil. There was another one from an Pacific and Asian country, but I'm not sure where. It wasn't the Philippines. I think it might have been Indonesia. And so we interviewed all of them. And so we basically chose Stephen because he actually worked for Aetna. And so we just thought like, oh man, this dude actually worked for an insurance company. He'll know the most. And so that's why we picked him. However, I think that there's probably more value that you could potentially get from hiring somebody from South America, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, or something like that, because they're going to be in a time zone that's more consistent with your office, and that might be pretty valuable. So, hopefully that answered your question, Anonymous. All right, next one. Lynn, Lynn, you were just saying thank you, and I appreciate you actually writing that comment. Lynn, more people need to be honest and say what you said, and that is running a dental office, having a family. Sometimes you just feel like you have 50 monkeys on your back, and you're not alone. But thanks for commenting. Is the virtual employee doing many of these tasks behind the scenes, or is he speaking direct to the patients as well? Actually, Ben, our virtual employee isn't doing a lot of direct speaking to the patients. Most of it is behind the scenes, self-directed. Our front desk team communicates with Stephen on a regular basis, and when it's time to reach out to a patient, usually they take on that responsibility.